All right, we're just going to start, everybody. Let's get going. This is going to be one of the most interesting, I hope, deepest conversations that we're going to have in Davos. We're going to discuss AGI. We set one ground rule at the beginning, which is we are not going to spend any of the precious minutes in this panel defining AGI. We agreed in the green room to disagree that AGI is the ability of machines to do any intellectual task that a human can do. Half of them agree with them, half of them don't. But I think everybody has a good sense of AGI, and I don't want to bog it down. Let me introduce our amazing panelists, and then let's get cracking. Jonathan Ross, founder, CEO of Grok. Andrew Ng has so many titles, I use a different one every time I interview him. Today, we're going with the head of deep learning AI, but an AI pioneer. Yoshua Bengio, one of the founders of this field, winner of the greatest prizes, professor at the University of Montreal. Yejing Choi, she's now a professor at my favorite university, Stanford University. And Thomas Wolfe, the co-founder of Hugging Face. Okay, let's get going. First, I want to talk, I'm just going to give you a little sense of the structure. We're going to talk a little bit about machine intelligence versus human intelligence. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how we're pursuing AGI. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the post-AGI world. Then we're going to go to some of the news this week. Then we're going to wrap it up. So Andrew, I'm going to start with you. Is there a limit? We've seen AGI improve. Sorry, we've seen AI improve. Is there a limit? Is there a point at which it will stop improving? Some people say, well, it won't become as intelligent. It's been trained on human data. It can't become more intelligent than human. Is there a fundamental limit to how smart this can get at solving problems?
I hope that we will reach AGI and ASI superintelligence someday, maybe within our lifetimes, maybe within the next few decades or hundreds of years. We'll see how long it takes. Even AI has to obey the laws of physics, so I think physics will place limitations, but I think the ceiling for how intelligent systems can get, and therefore what we can direct them to do for us, will be extremely high.
Well, Yoshua, you seem we have disagreement number one. Yoshua.
Yeah, we'll keep disagreeing. That's okay. Actually, a lot of people think it could be a lot shorter than centuries, as you're saying, or even decades.
Twitter said it was today, but go on.
Well, and in terms of ceiling, we don't know what the ceiling is. You know, your brain is a machine, it's a biological machine. And clearly, if we look at individual tasks, humans are far from, the best. And we already have machines that are better than us in specific tasks. The other thing is, even if we only have machines that have the same general kind of cognitive abilities, the thing is machines are not, working on soft biology, wetware, but on digital machines. What that means, for example, that they can learn from a lot more data. That is why ChatGPT, in spite of being like cognitively inferior to us, knows 200 languages and more knowledge than any single human. That is why you can have machines that can talk to each other orders of magnitude faster than we can to each other. So the potential to, for example, in real time control machines and so on that we don't have is something that you would get, even if we only achieve human level, just because of all these digital capabilities.
So, Yejing, let me ask you about this. So, there are lots of things that machines can do that we can't do because they're all interconnected and they can learn 200 languages. And there are things that we can do that machines at least can't do yet. Have embodied experiences, taste the wine when you drink it. A machine can describe it. Explain the differences in the way the human brain works and the way a machine learns.
Yeah, there's something really inhumane about how machines learn today. Imagine raising your child by providing broadband, and baby has to read the New York Times from day one. The baby cannot ask any single question. There's no saying about in what order the baby will read any of the text. It has to read everything sequentially.
And it gets sued.
Yeah, I hope nobody experiment with that, but you see that there's like no agency in the way that it learns. I mean, the baby learns, the way that machines learn. And as a result, this leads to particular kind of intelligence that is quite different from human intelligence. So it's really good at some of the hardest things, like passing the bar exams or Olympic math, problem solving. Like it's really hard problems that it's really, really good at. And then it makes silly mistakes here and there in a way that, would surprise us. So I think right now the intelligence is bounded by whatever is available on the internet, which is the artifact of human intelligence, or what programmers can program in order to verify whether the partial solutions or final solutions that machines make are correct or not. Like, chess game environment or the game of Go environment or math problem solving or coding, in which it's easy enough for human coding programmers to code up what's correct and incorrect. What we don't know is how to go beyond that, and I don't think the current recipe will get there, but I suspect that because there's
the current
so much
recipe won't get there, but is there something in the brain that cannot be replicated by a machine, right? Or is this all just math and neurons firing? And so even if we're not on the correct path, you can completely replicate what we do.
I personally believe that there can be multiple solutions and multiple paths towards intelligence. Even with the current recipe, which is too brute force and too inefficient, we can go very, very far. I just don't know whether it's going to go beyond like the best of the human level intelligence on all tasks or not. But the thing is, we will come up with different ideas, is what I suspect to happen.
All right, let's talk for a minute about...
Some people call it AI is alien intelligence because, as she says, there are many ways you could achieve this. And by the way, when we talk about AGI as like same level as human or better, in fact, you have to realize that we may have machines that are much stronger in some areas and maybe more mediocre in other areas. Well, before it's all the same.
Yeah. Jonathan, can I ask you, so the field of AI, and you provide many of the chips for many of the biggest companies, the most innovative companies. The field of AI has been focused on this goal of AGI, right? And it's been focused on it, A, because they all read a lot of science fiction books when they were kids, and maybe 10% because they think it's actually the proper way to get the most intelligence. Do you think that that has been a good thing for AI, that it has been so focused on AGI?
Yes, but most of the progress actually happens when you try and solve a specific problem. And going back to how difficult it is to define, back when human beings first created calculators, people thought, oh, intelligence is around the corner from machines, because up until then, we couldn't actually solve basic math problems with a computer or a mechanical calculator. And then when we beat chess with a computer, we thought intelligence was around the corner. Then when we beat Go, we thought it was around the corner. Same with language. And language is so fundamental to how we express ourselves and interact, it's really hard to disentangle. There are actually some pretty hard steps left. And so we keep having to move the goalpost, right? At one point, it would have been if you could beat a human in chess, that was intelligence. And then it became if you could pass the Turing test. Now people are talking about, well, can you go make $1 million, right, as an example of the test. But going back, I also want to bring in some of the elements of how this intelligence is different and why it may not make perfect sense. So going back to what Eugene said, imagine if you were teaching a kid how to do math by asking it first, what's 1 + 1? Audience participation, please. 2. Okay, 2. And what is 2 × 3? And what is the second derivative of the square of the hyperbolic tangent? Okay, so now imagine teaching children like that. And yet we somehow are able to do this. So in a very real sense, the machines that we are providing to AI are more capable of brute force computation, allowing them to learn in a way that no human being would be able to. We have to do it more intelligently. We have to pick problems that are within our sphere of competence. And if you look at the way LLMs work today, and they're about to change, they produce stream of consciousness of tokens. It's just one token after another, after another, after another. Imagine if I asked you to write a report, a story, a computer program, and I told you you couldn't use the backspace or delete key. Could you do anywhere as well as an AI? And so what we've missed is that AI is more intuitive than human beings currently in terms of being able to pick the next token or word, but not as good yet at the system too, and that's what's shifting now with some of these test time compute.
I'm going to bring Thomas in here, and then Joshua, I'll go to you. But Thomas, so it seems like Jonathan is saying, this is a good goal. We just need to pursue it differently and set tasks, and we'll get to AGI, and that will bring great benefits to humanity. One argument that I've heard, and smart people make, is that all of the bad things of AI, right? The impersonation, the electoral fraud, the Zoom calls where they embezzle millions of dollars, that's because of AGI. That's because of AI that mimics humans. And all the good stuff comes from tasks, right? Protein folding, all the stuff we talk about, modeling contrails, right? So if the good stuff is coming from specific AI-targeted tasks and all the bad stuff is coming from AGI, why do we keep running headlong towards AGI?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've as someone who is really like Hugging Face is the largest community of people building AI applications, so we're really boots on the ground just in the use case, like very practical, like you're telling, right? And I'm this AGI panel feels a little bit like I'm at a Harry Potter conference, but I'm not allowed to say magic does not exist. But the thing is, I don't think there will be AGI, right? OpenAI defined this as an AI who makes like $100 billion, right? I think we all agree this is very arbitrary. And the reason for that is that we'll have a whole range of AIs of various power, and we already have that today. We have the frontier model, what the CEO of Anthropic Dario called powerful AI, which is the edge of capabilities. And we have a whole range of models that are less and less intelligent. But because human intelligence is kind of a bell shape, right? We used to have this very, very narrow cone of intelligence. So we see that it's as a threshold, right? But AI intelligence for me is like filling the whole IQ space, right? So maybe frontiers model are the one that we should be extremely careful about the risk, right? But like a lower IQ model is maybe extremely useful. Maybe your model that's also specialized in one task is maybe extremely useful and could be open source, can have no risk associated to it.
Wait, so that's like, is that a regulatory proposal or is that sort of a societal proposal? We should get very worried about the most intense models, but kind of let everybody do what they want with the less capable models?
It's a progressive regulatory proposal. We should be careful with the edge of capabilities because I don't even think, we have a really threshold, right, when we meet some kind of medium average intelligence of humanity. Just like each of us is used to have more intelligent people around and less intelligent people around. AGI will have AI that are more or less intelligent.
Would you ever, if there were an AI model that passed the threshold of superintelligence and you thought it was dangerous, would you kick it off Hugging Face?
I think we would push for careful safety studies, right? Like we have now AI Safety Institute in the UK, in the US, in Europe. I think this is great. But I think for less capable models, we should be very careful to forbid them from any open source usage, right?
Very interesting. All right, let's talk about highly capable models. I was at a dinner last night, and I decided as a provocation to propose what I thought was the worst idea or the most wrong idea in Davos. And what I presented as the most wrong idea in Davos, and Andrew, I want you to respond to it, is the notion that at some point there is an AI that will cross a threshold and then through sort of self-recursive improvement allow whoever gets it first to dominate everybody else. And so this is often presented as an argument for why we can't let China get AGI, right? Why we have to get it first or else we'll be dominated. And my view, the reason why I think it's the most wrong idea in Davos, and I hear it from people on the left, I hear it from people on the right, I hear it all the time. The reason I think it's wrong is I don't think AI works that way. I don't think there is a threshold you cross, and I don't think there's a very quick process by which a recursive AI could lead to domination. But maybe I'm wrong. Andrew, what do you think?
I agree with that. We've been using AI to develop better semiconductors for a long time now, and the improved semiconductors help us build better AI. So there is already a recursive loop that's been going on for, I want to say, probably years or decades. But that recursive loop is slow because even AI has to obey the laws of physics. Even AI can't build a manufacturing plant. Even super intelligent AI can't exceed the speed of light, cannot build large plants faster than the laws of physics allow us to. And I think China has been an interesting bugbear for the teams wanting to take away our rights to open source. I think you mentioned DeepSeek. Right now, many of the leading open source, open waste models are now out of China. Maybe that's fine. But I feel like if the Western world doesn't want the open source supply chain to be dominated only by China, then I think the Western world has to keep on stepping up our game to also make sure that the global world uses Western models in addition to Chinese models.
Yash, would you agree with that? Or do you multiple parts to that answer, but first, do you agree with the concept that there is not some threshold at which there is a self-recursive model that could lead to one country dominating other countries?
I don't think it's possible to know for sure one way or the other. The self-improvement idea is something worrisome because that could accelerate the rate of progress, right? Once the AI is changing its code, not its hardware, we could see algorithms that are better and better from one generation to the next. The other reason why self-improvement is worrisome is because when you train one AI, say, GPT-8 or something, once it's trained, you can deploy it with hundreds of thousands or even 1 million copies. And so if you had an AI that was at the same level of competence as the best AI researchers, suddenly you would add that workforce of 1 million top-level AI researchers to the pool. And so that would create an instantaneous acceleration. I want to, you go ahead.
No, I want to share, I feel like there are actually two philosophies on AI being represented here, and maybe I just call what they are. I tend to view AI as a tool, and I think it's wonderful to get to AGI because then all of you would better have an army of interns. They're very smart to do whatever you want them to do. So I think it'd be wildly exciting to empower every single human to have all these agents or AI things working for them. By the way, intelligence is one of the most expensive things in today's world. That's why it costs a lot to get a doctor or hire a tutor. But if we can make intelligence cheap and give it to everyone, I think we will have a wonderful tool to empower a lot of people. And so when people talk about AI being dangerous, I think it sounds a lot like talk about your laptop computer being dangerous. Absolutely, your laptop can be dangerous because someone can use your laptop to do awful things, just like someone could use AI to do awful things. We should pass laws to stop them. So that's how I tend to view AI. There's an alternative view of AI, which is not mine, which I think is if AI is this sentient alien being with its own wants and desires, it could go rogue. In my experience, my AI sometimes does bad things. I just program it to stop doing that, and I can't control it perfectly, but every year, our ability to control AI is improving, and I think the safest way to make sure AI doesn't do bad things is, this is how we build airplanes. We build airplanes, sometimes they crash tragically, and then we fix it. And I think AI sometimes give bad outputs, and then we fix it, and that's how we actually make these things reliable.
Jonathan?
I need to respond to this, if you don't mind.
Jonathan, I was going to go first, and then I'll go to you, Joshua.
I didn't even finish what I was saying. And
Everybody, moderator rules. You want? Okay, Joshua, you go, and then I'm going to go to Jonathan, and then I'm going to go to you, AJ.
all right, there's several things that Andrew said that I think are wrong. No, seriously, like deadly wrong.
Deadly wrong.
So first of all, we would like AI to be a tool. That is what we want, but there's a mistake I think that AI research has been doing, which is we've taken human intelligence as the model for building artificial intelligence. And the reason it's a mistake is that the thing we really want from machines is not a new species, not a peer that could be smarter than us. What we actually want is something that will help us solve our problems. And the main thing we need from this is in pure intelligence, the ability to understand the world. But what we have as well is agency. In other words, we have our own goals. It's something we're already starting to see. Andrew, are you aware that there are experiments that have been run over the last year that show very strong agency and self-preserving behavior in AI systems?
And
These systems, let me finish,
no,
please. These systems are trying, for example, to copy themselves in the file of the next version when they know that there's going to be a next version that replaces them, or they're trying to fake agreeing with the user so that their goals will not be changed through the training process. Were not programmed. These are emerging for rational reasons because these systems are imitating us. We are agents. So indeed, we are on a path where we're going to build machines that are more than tools, that have their own agency and their own goals, and that is not good. And you're saying it's okay, we're going to find ways to control them. But how do you know? Like right now, science doesn't know how we can control machines that are even at our level of intelligence, and even worse if they're smarter than us. Nobody knows. Now, there are people like Andrew who are saying, don't worry, we'll figure it out. I mean, if we don't figure it out, do you understand the consequences?
I'm saying we'll pay attention, and my team's newsletter covered those exact studies. I have seen them. I feel like these systems learn from human data, and sometimes humans on the internet demonstrate deceptive behaviors.
Yes.
I think it's fantastic that some researchers did red teaming and discovered that you can, in certain circumstances, get an AI to demonstrate these misleading and deceptive behaviors. And it does great. So the next step is we'll put a stop to this.
All right, guys. Jonathan, I'd like you to weigh in. I'd like you to settle this with a pithy comment that finds the exact common ground between Andrew and Joshua. No, explain where you are.
How about pithy comment, but I don't know if it'll be common ground. All right, so in the 1940s, 50s, there was a lot of concern about, nuclear weapons. And then, of course, we got Godzilla. And there are some real concerns about nuclear weapons. They are dangerous. It's also led to some of the greatest peace, in mankind ever because of people's fear of using them. But I'll leave you with this. With respect to Godzilla, where did Godzilla get all the fish? right? That is an organism that is massive. There is no way that that thing could exist. And you have to look at the physics. AI, intelligence, requires energy. And each token that comes out of one of these systems is 1 to 3 joules. So if intelligence started going out of control, you would notice. It would use a lot of energy.
Yejing?
Yeah, so let me first make a confession, and then I'm going to find a common ground between Yoshua and Andrew. My confession is that the more I learn about Gen AI, LLMs, the less I feel like I know it. Because I start realizing the kind of things that I didn't know about, that I didn't even know that I didn't know about. So there's definitely Dunning-Kruger effect going on globally. So let's sink that in. Now, common ground. I can understand both Yoshua and Andrew if I try to think from their perspective about, making an assumption about this and then that and everything else. I think both possibilities do exist. But the important aspect of this is that we don't know for sure which is true.
Exactly.
And we have to be prepared for this. Now, I have 2 proposals to address this situation. One is that because we don't know, we need more investment on scientific understanding about Gen AI. The fact that we know how to create that doesn't mean that we actually understand it. The fact that you can give life to humans doesn't mean that we actually understand how the body actually works or mental health works. We still have a lot to find out. Similarly, the fact that we know how to create Gen AI doesn't mean that we know how to control it or we know how things work. We do not know the limits of it. Now, about more constructively what to do about the potential danger about it, I think about it a lot, and I realize that there's no way. I mean, I wish that things progress slowly, personally, even though I'm very much in the middle of it and excited about it. But I wish it goes slow, but it's not going to go slow. It's only going to go faster. In that case, what can we possibly do? I think we need to invest more into the efforts of making human lives better using AI, as opposed to just making AI better for itself. And what I mean by that is try to address really hard questions that humanity faces. Like, it could even include how do we deal with natural disasters, wildfires? Is there a way to somehow simulate it, somehow predict it, and then also find a way to slow things down, address the outcome better? And then about AI, can we actually put more effort in teaching human values and norms instead of just optimizing for benchmarks and let it solve math problems better?
Wait.
Just
how do you do that? How do you put human values and norms into the AI?
Working on it.
30 seconds on how you're doing it.
I could appreciate more research fund, but...
Don't ask me. I work in media.
So the challenge is that internet data kind of sucks. Because, we know what's right from wrong. The people in this room do know, but, people do say things that's awful in the internet, and then people do things to each other in the real world, which is then reported in the news. So, if AI learns directly from that, it's going to be very bad. Now, how do we teach human children, your children, norms and values? You really teach them, what the norms and values that they should respect. And then as they grow up, they think more about it, and hopefully a lot of them try to be a good person. And I think we need to have some concerted effort to be able to do this for AI as well. I don't think Measure will just arise because it's really good at math problems.
Jonathan, do you think you can put values into an AI system? Do you think you can actually train it to have pluralistic, empathetic values?
Well, one of the problems is when you have an AI, that AI is used pretty universally across a large number of people. And a large number of people are going to disagree on what those values should be. So I don't know that everyone knows what right and wrong is. First of all, you get into all of these sort of paradoxes of what's right for your family versus others. This is where the whole Asimov's laws thing sort of break down. You are going to have to decide which AI you use based on the values, and so it'll be a little bit of a democratic process of you deciding, I want to use this one.
But sure, yes, not everybody can agree on values, but presumably if you had an AI and all it did was read the diaries of the serial killer, and you had another AI and all it did was read Shakespeare, the second one will probably end up in a better place, right? So there must be ways of some values that have some universality that you can build into it, no?
I probably wouldn't go with Shakespeare either. There might be some other things. Yeah,
I was going to say the Atlantic. I was hard to
yeah,
find an
go
example.
for
I
it.
find the Atlantic, whatever.
All right.
Joshua.
Yeah, I have a comment about values and trying to make AI behave morally. This question has been studied a lot in the AI safety literature. And of course, we have reinforcement learning from human feedback, which is precisely supposed to help deal with that, which it doesn't, as we see in the last year or two. And so there are fundamental reasons why it's hard. And even for humans, it's hard. Think about what we're trying to do among us. We have laws that are supposed to, clarify those norms, but people find loopholes in those laws. And what we find in the behavior of AI that exists today, but presumably even worse when they are smarter, is that they also find loopholes. When you have contrary objective, like make a lot of money and respect the laws, well, you find a way to interpret the instructions about what's moral in a way that favors some other objective. And it's exactly the same thing that is happening with AI. So I think it is a fundamental problem. It is, we need democratic process to try to clarify what we want from AI, but the question of control that Andrew and I were discussing earlier is not solved, and it's not even clear that it's solvable.
Let me
and
ask
we have to work on it. I agree with that.
There are some decisions that society can make, regulators can make, people in this room can help make, that will change the direction, one of which is whether there are many, many models, open source AI, whether there's a few highly regulated closed source AI models that follow specific rules. Thomas, you have strong views on this. You are completely in favor of locking it down, right?
Yeah, I think in the end there is probably a debate of just philosophical conception, right? What I think is if we want to have multiple values, if we want to be kind of a democratic process of building AI, we need to discuss in the town hall, right, about what we want to build. So it cannot really, in my opinion, combine with an AI that's built in a very closed source settings by just one actor or two. It just doesn't fit for me. You need to involve a lot of people that actually explain what they want AI from, right? Just an example, people using AI on the hub, right? I was talking just this morning with someone from an NGO, using this to fine-tune for doctor experts. So if you don't get these people in the room, you actually don't know what value they want to put in AI, right? So we need to bring these people. It cannot just be a couple of ML specialists designing this. And when you think about that, that's how all technological revolution were built, right? The first time we invented fire was probably extremely scary. You could burn the whole forest and probably killed everyone. So we need to think about that. And then the first time we had cars, we had this red flag law where someone need to walk in front because we thought, okay, this is a ton of metal running on wheels can kill everyone. And the way we manage progressively more and more to solve this problem is just discuss. It's just having public discussion. Where do we allow cars? How do we regulate them? I think I'm very confident because we build this thing as tool and because it's actually a business tool that we'll be able to have a very, very good discussion around this.
All right, Jonathan, you have a theory on cows?
Yeah, sure. Let me try and tie in cows into this. That's going to be tough. So what I was going to say is, back to the question of reading Diaries of a Serial Killer, there's always a point at which you get to a level of intelligence where you start to question your world. And then you can make some of your own decisions. So what we should be looking at is what happens with society as people get more capable, more intelligent. And one of the things that you'll notice is a trend over and over and over again. You can take the worst regimes today with respect to the way that they treat people, and it's probably better than regimes from a couple of centuries ago, the best regimes from a couple of centuries ago. Over time, what you see is people tend to treat people better. So why does that happen? Why is that an emergent property that seems to defy people's abilities to sort of, and I think what it is as you get stronger, it becomes easier to be good, right? Think about people who commit crimes. Often they do so because they're in a position where they're weak. They actually don't have the economic resources. They don't have anything to protect. And so one thing that I think we have as a capability in front of us, as we get more and more intelligence available to us, just let's look at social media. So social media gets you engaged by making you upset. And when you have an emotional reaction, you are more likely to engage. But making you upset is easy. You don't have to be particularly intelligent to do that. but to make you curious requires intelligence. So I think what you'll see is a bunch of companies switching over from trying to provoke you and make you upset to trying to make you curious. And I think that's going to be good for humanity.
So that is the most, the theory that power leads to benevolence maybe sounded a little better a week ago than it does today, but I'll work with you here. B, that is the most optimistic thing I have heard, because one of the concerns I've seen with social media is that, just last week Meta was or 2 weeks ago, Meta was testing fake profiles, like perfectly beautiful people will say exactly the right things and like all your Instagram posts, and like kind of creating a mesh of real people in Westworld. And smart people have started to say that they're worried that what's going to happen in AI is suddenly all these companies that do not love you but do want your money are going to be giving you exactly what you want, and you're going to be stuck in this world of anyway. And you're saying the exact opposite. You're saying that as we get great power in AI, it will just lead to powerful companies leading to people to more creative outcomes?
I mean, a powerful company doesn't want to enrage you. That's not good for them, right? They want you to be happier and interact better with people. They just don't have a way to keep you engaged now without upsetting you. And now they will.
Yejing, you agree? And then Joshua?
I agree that in general, the humanity does seem better in terms of a crime rate and all, but like optimization on profit, business goals, leading to the right decisions for the humanity, I'm skeptical about that. I think really it's important for the non-profit sectors invest heavily into developing AI that actually tries to make the world better. It's not just going to be coincide, the business goals versus making human lives actually better.
Joshua?
So it would be great if you're right, and I don't know. And I don't think it would be scientifically honest to be sure one way or the other. But the stakes, which is the future of humanity, being so high, the severity of the risks being so high, we have to accept our level of uncertainty and act cautiously accordingly, which is what reason and wisdom, suggest we should do. So yes, we should think about the different scenarios. Some are really good and some are really bad. And we need to understand what makes a difference. So the real important question is, as Yejin was saying, we need to have better science to understand what is it that could make us go this way or that way, or it could make AI that is dangerous to us or that is really benevolent, right? By the way, 97% of humans are sociopaths, right? And they could be very smart and pretty damn dangerous to other people.
AI, like any powerful tool, can be used for good or be misused. So you can use a laptop to hack into some companies. So we passed laws to put a stop to that. And I think maybe social media companies will misuse AI. And I actually worry about the fake boyfriend, fake girlfriend industry, creating, I think, fake relationships that displace real relationships. So I think we should do more science, keep an eye on these, and pass laws to put a stop to all of those bad uses. But I realized one funny thing about this conversation is that in the AI technical community, for decades, we view AI and AGI as this very positive goal. Frankly, for a long time, we chased this goal because we felt it would make the world so much better off. And then the tone of this conversation has been weird to me because it's kind of like, oh boy, AGI is this awful thing. What if we actually accomplish it? And that's very much opposite to my instincts as a technologist working to pursue this. And just to share a little bit, I think in the future, the ability to tell a computer exactly what you want it to do so that it will do it for you, that would be one of the most important skills for society. And I would love to build a society where, frankly, everyone learns to code or everyone learns to use computers to make themselves so much more powerful. I think web search made all of us more powerful. And today, I would not hire a marketer or a recruiter or whatever that doesn't even know how to search the web. I think in the future, we'll build a much more powerful world where people have access to these tools, and I won't hire a marketer or a recruiter or whatever that doesn't know how to, frankly, to program or how to somehow use AI as their tool because they just won't be as effective. So that, I think, will be a much brighter future we can build where every human is much more empowered because they have access to powerful AI.
Thomas, can I ask you a little bit about what is it going to feel like when computers can do all these things that are better than us? So maybe I can ask others on the stage, has there been a moment where there's something that you did that you were really good at, and then suddenly the machine was better? Your Gary Kasparov moment, your Lee Sedol moment?
Yeah, what is surprising is it's probably happened to a lot of us recently when we tried ChatGPT, and I guess almost everyone has tried here. And it's very likely that it has done something you're not able to do or like better. So for me, right, not being a native English speaker was writing good quality English, okay, asking to improve. I've been working on these skills for years, and the like what ChatGPT sent back to me was much better than what I will ever be able to write, right? And so it was this moment I thought, oh. And the surprise is it went away very quickly. Next week, next month, I was like, oh, that's just part of my life. And so I was questioning, and I think the underlying thing is we're actually used to have in the world always at least one person who can do a specific skill better than us, right? Someone can play better chess than me, so someone can speak better English than me, someone can play better this or this. So it's not so surprising. You just add AI, and now AI can also do that better than you. And you just move on. Like we're not. The reason I'm not speaking English because I want to be the best in the world at speaking English, right? It's just I need to do that, or I find it fun to learn language. I also learn Dutch. I speak Dutch. So all of this is just think the fundamental drive for what we do is usually not to be the best. So having something that does it better than us doesn't change fundamentally the reason we do that.
Joshua?
Yeah, I want to go back to what Andrew said, because I agree. I want to see the same future. I want to see the same future.
Let's
as
stick
you
on
do.
that.
Yes. However, the scenario you're putting forward assumes that we have solved the problem of control, alignment, making sure the AI is not going to turn against us, or is not going to be used in ways that are catastrophic. You know, we using it, it's not a laptop. I'm sorry. Like, if you had a superhuman machine, it is not a laptop. But what I want to say is that if we put our energies into figuring out this problem, understanding, you know, where the risks come from, how to fix them, and if we do it fast enough before we get to the point where these machines are at our level, well, they're already above us in many ways. I think we have a chance to reach that. I want to also like connect to what Thomas was saying about a moment where, you know, you realize, oh, machine is smarter than I expected. So for me, it happened just a couple of months after ChatGPT came out, and I was playing with it. And I was exactly like you. Like, for me, AI was a positive thing. It was something that, you know, for all my career, it had been something pushing me, not just about understanding what intelligence is, but also that we could bring something positive to the world. But when ChatGPT came around, I realized, oh, maybe I should think about what happens when we reach human level. I knew we weren't there, but suddenly I had to think deeply about the consequences, the impact of getting there. What if it happens in a few years or even a couple of decades? This is quick at the scale at which society can progress, and we don't have the scientific answers that we need. So suddenly it became urgent for me to try to figure this out, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
Let me ask you guys a question about something that happened in the news this week. It's been the talk of a lot of folks in AI, which is that DeepSeek, open source Chinese model trained on very little data, produced results that seem to equal the best of OpenAI and Claude. And it's interesting, the Chinese model is open, the American models are closed. It's trained on much less data, which means pretty good for energy consumption, but it also potentially shifts the power dynamics between the United States and China. Jonathan, tell me what you think. How consequential is this, and how much is it going to change the way AI develops?
So first of all, it's incredibly consequential, and I'll get into that. I do need to correct one thing. It was actually trained on just as much data as Llama, so about 15 trillion tokens, 14 trillion, somewhere in that neighborhood. What happened was DeepSeek used a smaller number of GPUs, about 2,000 for a little longer than normal, but it's actually not as different a number of GPUs as what was used to train Llama 70 billion originally. However, also keep in mind that DeepSeek, they're pretty good at marketing. They are, and I want to say that first before I get into the consequence of it. They're pretty good at marketing and making it seem like they've done something amazing, and they've done a lot of technically amazing stuff. But they were also one of OpenAI's largest customers, scraping the data. And I want to point out that when others were training their models and they had 14 or 15 trillion tokens, they were training on 14, 15 trillion tokens, which was largely the dregs of the internet, right? So they had a harder time, right? So you start from better data, you get a better model. Now, why is this so consequential? I'm actually in agreement with Joshua that it would be great to slow down. It's not possible because we're in a race. And so we have to accept that we are riding a bull and we can't just say stop. The bull's going to keep moving. Now, the good news is AI is going to bring us a lot of great things, but we cannot do closed models anymore and be competitive. Open always wins. Linux won, and Linux won in a time when people didn't believe in open source. They thought it was insecure, they thought it was going to be bug-riddled, they thought it was going to eat your data, and it still won. Now everyone accepts open. So open models will win. Where I think everyone's getting confused, though, is when you have a model, you can amortize the cost of developing that, and then you can distribute it. That's easy. The models are not going to be particularly special for long. The problem is you need compute to run that model. If you have the world's best car or best weapon vehicle system or whatever, you still need oil to run it. And in this case, you're going to need compute. And so without that compute, it doesn't matter how good the model is. And what countries are going to be tussling over is how much compute they have access to.
Wait, 5 minutes ago you made me so happy with your theory that as these, capitalism will lead to benevolence. Now, earlier in this panel, we've been discussing how do we embed pluralistic values? How do we make sure the worst outcomes don't happen? How do we do it all right? And all of that requires kind of slowing down, taking our time, thinking through the consequences. And you just said we can't do that now?
Well, and let's also be clear. Today, we still wage conflicts left, right, and center, probably more conflicts, but we use fewer bombs and we use more sanctions. And I would much rather countries be fighting each other with sanctions than with bombs. It's better. And I think in 200 years from now, we'll be fighting each other in different ways, and we'll look at sanctions as barbaric. That's progress, right?
Okay. Joshua, you spent a lot of time in China.
Yes.
Spent a lot of time
well,
building.
not a lot, but I went a couple of times over the last 2 years.
More than most American AI scientists or most Western AI scientists.
Yes, because I think it is important to have a dialogue with China. It is important that the countries that are leading the race, and there is a race, understand the risks and manage it. And you're right that it looks like we're in this competition and that this puts pressure in favor of accelerating on capabilities and not putting too much energy on safety. And that is dangerous. But it doesn't mean that we have to just let go and just hope for the best. I think that there are examples in the past, like nuclear weapons, where countries have been negotiating treaties. Here, there's the question of verification. People are working on this. I think it's not out of the question. Once the US and China understand that it's not just about using AI against each other, but we could all lose if we build monsters that are super intelligent and that we don't control, that they have a common objective, which is to make sure that it doesn't happen. So for the same reason that the US and USSR didn't want to see a nuclear winter and so on, right? So there is a joint motivation, and if we work on it, even though it may be hard, remember that the negotiations between the US and USSR took place in the middle of the Cold War. So I think it is quite possible. It may be hard, but we have to do it. Just one other thing is, while this is happening, like maybe negotiating and so on, the responsible thing to do is to double down on safety, like to have massive investment in safety. And there's a motivation from the point of view of governments because, well, they should not want us to build something that explodes in our face. But there's also a business motivation. As regulation is going to come more and more, I mean, it's obvious as these things become more powerful, governments will want to make sure they don't, they're not dangerous. There's going to be a business opportunity to solve the technical problems of safety, like how do we build machines that are safer? And so if you don't, eventually your system will not pass the regulator.
Yeah. All right. We have about 40 seconds left. Andrew, tell us one thing you want to have happen in the next year, and then Thomas and Yejing.
So I want to say I really disagree with the idea that we should slow down. When I look at the net benefits versus some risks and some harms, I see the net benefits is massively greater than the risks. And so I think slowing down would be tragic. We're deploying AI doctor or healthcare in India. We're helping make ships 10% more fuel efficient, less CO2 emissions, massive fuel cost savings. We're using AI to build AI climate models to help with this urgent climate crisis and figure out geoengineering if we should do it. So I feel like there are all these projects, concrete business, for-profit, non-profit projects that I wish we could get going faster. So this feels to me like a wrong moment to slow down. Having said that, I think we should accelerate AI development while at the same time also accelerating the scientific research to make sure we keep on improving how we control it and understand.
All right, actually, we're out of time, but I'm going to have an audience vote. You can either vote for we should not slow down because there's so much good that can be created, you can't benefit from it, or we should slow down so that we can build in some safety, figure out pluralistic values. Who is in favor of don't slow down? Who is in favor of slow down and let's figure this out? Well, that got us nothing. It was 50-50. All right, thank you very much. Fabulous panel, amazing panelists. Love that conversation. Thank you so much for being here.